Hey guys, Fabrizio Romano here. Hello to all my Polish friends. As always, thanks for all your support during the deadline day. It's been a crazy January transfer window. Let me say that for January, probably the best winter transfer window of the last 7-10 years. It's been something really unbelievable with many top players moving, with many top clubs involved. And this is not so usual because usually see the January transfer window as something normal, something quiet, maybe 1-2 signings, important ones around Europe. And in this case, it was really amazing, especially in the Premier League, because in other leagues was very quiet. In Italy, Spain, really quiet. But in the Premier League was really exciting. So I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic summer, but the January transfer window was very good and was very funny also to me because many deals were hijacked like Danjuma and Tottenham, Mykhailo Mudryk and Chelsea, but also many others crazy stories like Hakim Ziyech deal collapsing because the documents were signed but sent too late. And so what happened is that they were not able to register the documents. And so we can see how crazy can be the market sometimes. It was an incredible story with Hakim Ziyech, who had his medical tests and he was waiting to sign the contract. He was in Paris Saint-Germain offices, but then the deal collapsed in the end. This is a transfer market too. Sometimes crazy stories can happen. I think this January was full of incredible players, and for me it was really difficult to sleep because you know how complicated it is when we have this kind of hijacks and the stories. You have to keep an eye on all the elements of the news. And so guys, I want to go with my top 10 signings of this window in different order, but these are my 10 favorite transfers in general. I want to start, of course, with Enzo Fernandez. A crazy story, really crazy, because Chelsea spent the whole window negotiating for Enzo Fernandez with almost 2 weeks of negotiations really quiet, but then in the final 3 days of the window, Chelsea were insisting and pushing on the final day, 20 hours of negotiations for Todd Bowley and Vedadek Dali, owners of Chelsea, to push with Benfica, and then Enzo Fernandez to Chelsea, an historical deal. So I think this was an incredible moment for Chelsea fans, how they were pushing for that player, the board and the owners, and then to get the green light from Manuel Rui Costa, Benfica president, was something really incredible in the final hours of the deadline day. So the most expensive midfielder ever. But let's see what will happen with Jude Bellingham in the summer. Meanwhile, congrats to Chelsea for signing Enzo Fernandez. Then I want to continue with Chelsea because they did an incredible window, and Mykhailo Mudryk, I think, is a really top signing. I love this player. I'm convinced he will be one of the best wingers in the world. He's very fast, he has incredible qualities, but how they signed him on that Saturday, hijacking the deal because Arsenal were really close, but then they decided to fly there, negotiate directly with Shakhtar, negotiate with the player, get the green light and get the player on a plane. Everything in 24 hours. The timing of that deal was impressive. So I was honestly shocked by the timing, but again, what a player, Mudryk. I'm in love with his skills, and I'm sure Chelsea did a top business with this one, also spending a lot of money, 70 million plus 30 in add-ons, and so we can see how important will be Mudryk for Chelsea, I think, very soon. Then I want to go with a big surprise, Joao Cancelo. Joao Cancelo was an unexpected player for this January transfer window. We were not mentioning him at all in January. Then what happened? That the player was not playing every single week, so he was a bit nervous. Pep Guardiola doesn't want any player to create any problem internally. It's the second part of the season, so it's time to focus. Every game is crucial, especially, of course, in the Champions League and for the title race in the Premier League. And so he spoke to Joao Cancelo, and they decided to allow him to leave the club, to go on loan to Bayern. Bayern were perfect in a strategy, really silent, top secret until the end. And so loan deal, 70 million euros by option, but I think in this case Pep Guardiola was showing how the club is bigger than any player, because to give Joao Cancelo on loan is really surprising, but Man City want the dressing room to be 100% calm and with no problem. So congrats to Bayern, because they signed a top player like Cancelo, who is already playing as a starter, and so I'm sure that Cancelo will make the difference for Bayern and that Man City will make a decision on him in the summer. No decision needed for Tottenham because they were very clear on the right back situation. They wanted Pedro Porro and they got Pedro Porro. Another crazy story of this crazy window, because imagine that Pedro Porro deal was done on the last Saturday. Then on Sunday, the player was ready to fly to London for the medical test on Monday morning. And then what happened is that in Saturday night, Sporting changed the conditions of the deal. Panic for all the clubs involved. But then what happens? Tottenham decided to be back in negotiations on Monday to change again the payment terms, to reach an agreement with Sporting. And then on Tuesday, on the deadline day, Porro makes the medical test with Tottenham and becomes the new right back for Antonio Conte. He loves the player. Also Fabio Paratici, the sport director of Tottenham, so they were obsessed succeeded with Porro, and congrats to them because they signed, I think, a top player in that position. It was a really complicated deal. It took like 4 or 5 weeks to negotiate with Porro, and Tottenham already wanted him last summer, so imagine how complicated that was. But at the end, Porro is new Spurs player. New Real Madrid player is Endrick. So you think sometimes we forget about this boy, but Real Madrid spent more than 60 million euros plus taxes for this boy born in 2006, super young, 16-year-old player of Palmeiras. He will join Real Madrid in summer 2024, but I think now we have this kind of underrated situation around him. But in few years, we will remember the name of Endrick and say, remember that January transfer window where Real Madrid invested on this boy and not in players for immediate impact. So Endrick is a top talent. I think Real Madrid did again an excellent job by signing him. And so keep an eye on Endrick because I think in few years his name will be everywhere, and Real Madrid did a great piece of business because Chelsea wanted him, Paris Saint-Germain wanted him, but Real Madrid were absolutely perfect on that one. And then I want to mention Leandro Trossard. I think he's a very good, smart deal for Arsenal because they signed him for a very good price, around 20-25 million pounds. The player had this strike with the manager Roberto De Zerbi at Brighton, and I think it's a smart signing to help the team in the key part of the season to win the Premier League. He knows the Premier League, he's very popular in the dressing room, and this is something really appreciated, very professional player. So keep an eye on Trossard because I think could be a very smart signing for Arsenal, very smart signing for Nottingham Forest also. Keylor Navas, what a signing. Nottingham Forest are signing incredible number of players, almost 30 players signed in the last months, and what they did with Keylor Navas I think is a masterpiece because the Marinakis family, the directors, were working on this deal with Paris Saint-Germain many weeks. PSG were not accepting the loan, but Keylor Navas wanted the move. He wanted to try the experience in the Premier League, and then what happened? Green light in the final minutes of the market. Keylor Navas to Nottingham Forest on loan, there is no buy option, but that was a very complicated negotiation. Keylor was insisting, and I think it's an excellent pace of business for them. Then I want to mention Cody Gakpo. Liverpool were quite on the market. They will be really busy in the summer, but Cody Gakpo is a great signing, I think. He will need some time to adapt to the Premier League, but he can bring goals, assists. They were perfect in the strategy. Deal done in few hours. When Man United were still thinking, we go for Gakpo or not, the strategy of Liverpool was go and sign the player. So that was absolutely perfect. And Cody Gakpo, I think, is one to mention in this list. I also wanted to mention the final two. And one has to be Joao Felix, because to sign Joao Felix, okay, it's a loan, but Joao Felix is a very important player, so I think he's another excellent one for Chelsea, and let's see what they will decide at the end of the season, when it will be time to decide on the future of Joao Felix, but I think this is another great signing, and Chelsea were the real winners of the January transfer window. And then Olympique Marseille fans, Ruslan Malinovskyi. I think you signed a top player in Malinovskyi. I also wanted to mention Unai, who had a fantastic World Cup with Morocco. So Unai and Malinovskyi, two top signings for Marseille. But I go with Malinovskyi because I know him so well. He was playing in Italy. His left foot is something unbelievable. And so enjoy Marseille fans because it was a very good deal. This was my top 10. Let me say one mention for Jakub Kiwior to Arsenal. Very good signing. And I know for you, my Polish friends, is a big news. So I wish the best to Kiwior. I'm sure he has a great potential. So Arsenal did a very good deal, and now it's time to enjoy all these players signed and sold around Europe on the pitch. So enjoy the second part of the season, and of course, here we go.